Mightyreacts, back with the reacts. On today's video, we're gonna react to biggest scam in human history by the Infographics Show. So enough of the talking, let's react.
Just how far would someone go to get rich? As it turns out, way farther than you would imagine. From selling cars that never existed to toppling the French monarchy, these con artists
Guys,
didn't
don't
just
do
break the
scams.
rules, they
It's
rewrote
bad.
them. We're exposing them all on today's episode of the Infographics Show, the most insane scams in history. Number 7, the
Number
undercover
7.
thousandaire. We've all heard the phrase, fake it till you
Thousandaire.
make it. But this scammer took that to the absolute extreme, conning her way into a life of luxury with only some bogus bank statements and a whole lot of confidence. And whoever let a little fraud stand in the way of a good time? Anna Sorokin was
Holy
just
shit.
an ordinary girl from a small town near Moscow, Russia, who moved to Rhine-Westphalia, Germany when she was just 16. As a teenager, she became obsessed with the world of high fashion that she saw in magazines like Vogue and Harper's Bazaar. After finishing high school, she moved around Europe for a bit before managing to land an internship at Purple, a trendy fashion magazine. And it was while working for Purple that she developed a glamorous alter ego, a German heiress named Anna Delvey. We'd have personally gone for something cooler like Chad Peck Flex. But hey, we never worked at a high-end fashion magazine, so what do we know? In 2013, the mysterious Anna Delvey moved to Manhattan and quickly installed herself into New York's high society. Using a mix of forged bank statements, phony checks, and bogus wire transfers, she was able to convince everyone, even the bank, that she had an exorbitant trust fund back in Germany. And as it turns out, when you're rich, a lot of places and a lot of people fall over themselves to give
Damn,
you
she's
free
smooth
stuff.
with it.
She stayed in luxury hotels, she bought designer clothing, and booked spa sessions, all given to her for free, or paid for
Nice.
by loans that she had fraudulently taken out based on her falsified financial records. Whenever she had cash, she threw it around like it was nothing. Part of the reason why so many luxury hotels and restaurants turned a blind eye to her grift was because she was a very generous tipper. She'd throw out $100 tips like they were confetti, so people just assumed she's gotta be rich. But as the scam went on, she had to resort to more creative ways to cover her tracks. When City National Bank came calling about her $100,000 in overdraft fees, she fabricated a story about her business manager conveniently dying before her accounts could be investigated.
Bruh.
Then, when a boutique hotel
That is
called
one thing you
11
have to
Howard
use.
tried to kick her out, she bought the names of the hotel managers as domain names and then ransomed them for $1 million. You gotta appreciate the sheer insane guts
Damn,
of it.
she's going
But the
all
straw
out,
that
bruh.
broke the camel's back was when she invited a group of friends on an all-expenses-paid trip to Morocco. When her card was declined at the resort, Delvey left her friend Rachel Deloche Williams with the $62,000 bill.
Bro. Ain't that what we call a fucking, what's the word? Shit, I cannot come to the word. But bro, that is just a bad fucking friend. You're already scamming, and then your card gets declined. You're gonna just left your friends with a bill, and you just walk away like that, and expecting them to pay the bill for you. Damn, that's crazy, bro. Guys, what would y'all do in this situation, bro? One of your friend take you guys to a trip in Morocco, and then all of sudden, and you got hit with the bill, so you guys need to pay, and your friend just walk away, is nowhere to be found, to seen. Bro, I will go crazy. First of all, I wouldn't pay shit. I will just walk away too, and then find a friend and beat his ass. Shit.
Williams knew that she had been duped, and she called the authorities. Anna Delvey was arrested in October 2017 and sentenced to 12 years in prison.
Damn.
It's estimated that over the course of 4 years, she stole an eye-watering $275,000. And things got even crazier from there.
Bro.
She was released in 2021, but detained again by ICE for overstaying her visa. After another 18 months, she was released
She
on bail
doesn't
and
learn
placed
from her
under
lesson,
strict
bro.
house arrest. But despite that, Anna hadn't given up her dreams of glamorous high-fashion life. She was featured on Dancing with the Stars in 2024 and
Bruh.
even modeled on the runway at New York Fashion Week, complete with a rather fetching house arrest ankle bracelet. So in a way, maybe she really did fake it until she made it. And at least, unlike our next pro scammer, she didn't ever fake her own death. Number 6, the
Yeah,
car
sick.
that never was. The Tesla Cybertruck is frequently called the worst car ever made, and it gets a lot of, frankly, well-deserved flack over its
Do you guys really think that's the ugliest car that ever made? Because bro, I have seen a lot of celebrities or rich people that buy the Cybertruck and customize it. It looks sick to me though, but I wouldn't buy it though.
Rust-prone
What's your
exterior,
thoughts on that?
dubiously functional self-driving capabilities, and its tendency to deliver electric shocks as an added extra. But one thing we can say about the Cybertruck is that, love it or hate it, it does actually exist. That is more than could ever be said of this next scam, the Dale. The Dale was the flagship car of the 20th Century Motor Car Corporation, an American
Dale.
automobile company started by Geraldine Liz Carmichael in 1974. Carmichael had already lived a crazy life before founding the company. She'd been assigned male at birth, and while living as a man, she had fought in
Bro, we
World
got
War II.
back-to-back
She'd been
womans.
married 4 times, been arrested for counterfeiting U.S. currency. Oh, and then she faked her death in a car accident. And this is all before the actual crazy stuff even starts. After transitioning, she reinvented herself as a girl boss marketing genius. And in 1973, she met Dale Clift. This wannabe inventor had built a prototype 3-wheeled car made out of PVC tubing and the motor from a Honda Super Hawk motorcycle, a real lemon if there ever was one. But this was at the height of the oil crisis. Fuel prices were through the roof and everyone was desperate to find some solution. Whoever could create an affordable fuel-efficient car and market it to
And
the
there
public
come the woman.
would be raking in the cash. So Liz and Dale went into business together. She gave him a big payout for the rights to mass produce and market the car via her recently established company. In tribute to its designer, the car would of course be given his name, the Dale. Through 20th Century Motors, Liz unleashed an absolute marketing blitz, and soon enough, investors started taking notice. In a Chicago Sun-Times interview, Liz said that she was on the way to taking on General Motors or any other car manufacturer. According to her, the car's
Let's see
3
about
wheels
that.
and low center of gravity made it impossible to tip it over despite the lightness. She even boasted that you could drive it straight into a wall with no harm to the people inside. It was also supposedly super
Bro,
fuel
the ones
efficient
who believe
since it
that
ran on a modified motorcycle engine. The
is
Dale
really
was the most
crazy.
talked about and pre-ordered new car of its day, with a non-functional prototype appearing at the 1975 Los Angeles Auto Show. The car was even offered as a prize on The Price is Right. But if it was so great and popular, why don't we hear about it now? Well, the Dale wasn't real. The supposed factory where the cars were going to be built was just a disused aircraft hangar that Liz was renting. Only 2 prototypes of the Dale ever existed, and only one even sorta worked. It was made from fiberglass, wood, and a lawnmower engine. You'd honestly have a hard time getting it cleared for a high school go.
Bro, a car with a lawnmower, how do you call that? Lawnmower engine is crazy, bro. That's That's diabolical. Anyways, you know what I meant. And the car is made of wood. And then you want people to believe when you crash through houses, everybody's gonna be safe, even the car. Bro, get out of here, bro. Bro,
Kart race. The
Diabolical.
scam didn't
That's
take
the
long
word.
to fall apart. After 9 months of assurances, the investors and the dealers started wondering where the cars they had been promised were, and that led to an investigation. But Liz had already skipped town with the money, which was estimated to
Of
be the
course.
equivalent of about $2 million. It was a modest payout, but we've got to put the Dale on this list just for the sheer spectacle. And she almost got away with it too. Liz
Oh,
wasn't found again until
she did get away.
1989 when she was arrested in a town called Dale, Texas. No,
Bruh.
seriously. But
Dale.
in terms of the damage, this car just left a lot of automotive investors out of pocket. Our next scammer actually got a lot of people straight up murdered. Number 5. The scam that killed the monarchy. The so-called Affair of the
This
Diamond
scam-
Necklace happened
holy
all the way
shit.
back in 1785. So why are we still talking about it today? Well, because this was a scam so
1785.
audacious that it was partially responsible for the collapse of the French royal family. The story starts in 1772, when King Louis XV commissioned a necklace for his mistress, Madame du Barry. Let's try not to judge, it's like the mafia, they all had mistresses back then. The necklace, which cost the equivalent of $17.5 million to make, was so elaborate
Ooh.
that by the time the jewelers had sourced and cut all of the diamonds, the king had died. So the necklace sat there unpaid until 1778, when King Louis XVI offered to buy it for his wife, Marie Antoinette. It must not have gone with any of her powdered wigs though, because she refused it, although it might have been due to
Crazy,
the
bro.
whole, well, other woman thing. So the stage is set. Now let's meet our scammer. C'est bonjour to Jeanne de la Motte, an aspiring society woman and illegitimate descendant of King Henry II of France. She was married to Nicolas de la Motte, a military man who went by the self-appointed title of Comte de la Motte. Jeanne was
Comte de la
also the
Motte.
mistress of Cardinal de Rohan, the French ambassador to Vienna, who was in the royal doghouse for insulting Queen Marie Antoinette's mom. Now, fearing his job was on the line, Rohan was desperate to regain favor with the royal household. When he complained about this to Jeanne, she told him that, well, she could just talk to the queen for him if he wanted. She'd been able to infiltrate the French court at this point with the help of a fellow con artist who specialized in blackmail and forgery. Had she ever been introduced to the queen? No. But was Jeanne gonna let the truth get in her way? Absolutely not. She told Rohan that she and the queen were best friends and offered to pass along a letter on his behalf. That's right, Jeanne was catfishing Rohan by forging letters from Marie Antoinette herself, and, well, Rohan totally fell for it. He became convinced that the previous cold treatment he'd gotten from the queen had to be because she was secretly infatuated with him, so he begged Jeanne to arrange a meeting. This is where most catfishes fall apart. Once they go on the date and they realize you are not the person in the photo, it's over. But
Yes.
Jeanne had prepared for this. She and her husband hired a prostitute who was a dead ringer for Marie Antoinette to meet up with Rohan and give him a rose as a sign of her love. Now at this point, Jeanne had Rohan cooked. Now that he was convinced the queen was in love with him, Jeanne moved on to the next phase of the scam. She started asking him for money. No matter how large the sum, Rohan handed it over, believing it was all for Marie's various charitable foundations. But in reality, all that money was going to Jeanne de la Motte's clout-chasing fund. Not only was she making enough bank to get anywhere that she wanted, she was also gaining social capital by going around bragging about her best friend, Marie Antoinette. And because of this bragging, a pair of jewelers got in contact. Jewelers who had been trying to sell Marie a big diamond necklace for years at this point. Jeanne agreed that she would help them sell it. Maybe not to the queen, but definitely to someone. She forged another letter to Rohan attached with a pre-signed order form for the necklace. In the letter, the queen explained that she would love to buy the necklace, but considering the state of the economy at the time, buying it would be a bad look. Rohan agreed to pay for the necklace in installments with the assumption that Marie would pay him back in the future. He picked up the necklace from the jeweler and gave it to a man that he believed was the queen's valet. Not long after, the necklace was pawned and scrapped, and Jeanne ran off with the cash. Rohan was eventually caught with one of the forged letters and arrested. However, he was released once Jeanne and her husband Nicolas were brought to trial. The case quickly became a national spectacle, and even though the king and the queen weren't directly involved, the affair of the necklace massively soured public opinion on the royal family, especially Marie Antoinette. So in the long run, the cost of this scam wasn't just the $17 million for the diamonds, it was also the entire French monarchy. But for Jeanne, scamming was just what she did to get by. For our next entry, scamming was an art form and a way of life. Number 4. The Court of Crime sells the Eiffel Tower. Staying in France, let's introduce you to Count Victor Lustig. This scammer was so prolific and brazen that he once managed to swindle famous Chicago gangster Al Capone. But by far the most famous con of his storied career was the time he sold the Eiffel Tower. For a little context, the Eiffel Tower wasn't always a beloved landmark the way it is today. It had originally been built for the 1889 World's Fair, and the original plan was to have it demolished in 1909. This demolition obviously didn't happen because, well, it's still standing. And it was still standing in the 1920s, but it was expensive for the city to maintain, and a lot of the locals thought it was a tacky eyesore. Victor Lustig, who was not really a count, would have known all of this when he came to Paris in 1925, and he started telling people that he was an official representative of the French government. A forger made him some official-looking stationery with a phony government letterhead. Then Lustig got in contact with 6 of France's biggest traders of scrap metal to organize a meeting in one of Paris's most upmarket hotels. At this meeting, Lustig gave them the following offer. The Eiffel Tower was costing the city millions. It had to come down as soon as possible, and with as little publicity as possible.
But I thought the Eiffel Tower bring more tourists, more people to the city, and yeah, more people will, yes. If it's have more tourists, then you guys have a little bit more money. I don't see how it costs y'all millions, but hey, I don't know.
Only one scrap metal company could get the contract for the landmark's demolition. All 6 company heads were bidding, but Lustig, who had been running cons since he was a teenager, focused on who he thought would be the most gullible. And that person was André Poisson. Poisson was new to the business
Poisson.
and eager to establish himself in the big city, but given the size of his company, he didn't have the kind of money that the other businesses were offering. Lustig said that as a government official, he didn't make very much money. Maybe if Poisson were to grease his palm a little bit, he could put in a good word with the higher-ups. Ironically, until the bribe, Poisson had been unsure that Lustig really worked for the government, since up to that point he'd seemed to be too honest. Poisson paid for the Eiffel Tower by check and then handed over 70,000 francs in cash. That is nearly $1 million in today's money. By the time Poisson realized that he had been duped, Victor was in Vienna, and Poisson was too embarrassed to go to the police. Victor later returned to Paris and tried the same scam again, but the cops soon found out and he quickly fled to the US. But embarrassment doesn't come anywhere near our next scam because the scammers behind it were downright shameless. Number 3. Firefest. 2016 was a crazy year for a lot of reasons. It was marked by political upheaval in the US and Britain, a plethora of Pokemon Go related injuries, and mass hysteria sparked by killer clown sightings, just to name a few. It was also the same year that the sleazy businessman Billy McFarland and rapper Ja Rule decided to go on a small plane flight together over the Bahamas. In the process, these two
Yes, I know about this one, but let me hear the story.
Likely friends came up with a crazy idea that would become one of the most infamous scams of the 21st century, the Fire Festival. It was marketed as a luxury getaway on a tropical island with 5-star accommodations and live music from some of the hottest acts available. What people actually got was an experience closer to Lord of the Flies. As the story goes, McFarland and Ja Rule were riding in a small prop plane together, which ran out of gas and forced them to land on the island of Exumas. Struck by the island's beauty, they immediately started thinking, we should host a music festival here. Only after they had made the website and booked a bunch of performers did they realize that the island had no running water. It was just a minor setback, but it didn't slow down the press tour in the slightest. McFarland's it was just a minor setback.
Fire Festival defrauded investor and guest out of more than 26 million.
But it didn't slow down the press tour in the slightest. McFarland sent out a 43-page pitch deck to investors. Influencers like Bella Hadid and Emily Ratajkowski were flown to the island for a sneak preview to drum up hype. There was even a promotional write-up in Elle magazine boasting that the event would have yoga on the beach, sea bobbing, water trampolines, and we are not making this up, $1 million of real buried treasure hidden around the island. A commercial posted to YouTube claimed that the location of the festival would be Pablo Escobar's private island. All of these ridiculous claims were no doubt a way to make the $900 ticket price feel more justified. Despite all of these insane promises, the festival organizers failed to deliver on basically anything. Investors who went to check out the site for themselves decided not to plow money into the venture. Most of the headlining acts, including Migos, Blink-182, and Disclosure, started to pull out, citing lack of payment. When the first day of the festival came around, attendees expecting a lush, deserted island were greeted by an unfinished construction site full of cheap-looking tents, trucks, and stacks of bricks. Realizing they had been conned, people tried to get back on the plane only to find out that the airport had been closed, and they were stuck there overnight. In the end, the disastrous mismanagement of Fire Festival cost investors and attendees, allegedly including Ja Rule, around $26 million. While Billy McFarland claimed it was all the result of poor planning and overambition, the SEC painted a different picture.
But where the 26 million went to? So where's the money?
According to federal prosecutors, McFarland was spending that investor money on luxury cars, celebrity parties, and a swanky Manhattan penthouse. He was
So Ja Rule got scammed too, huh? Hey.
Eventually charged with wire fraud and in 2018 sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. He served fewer than 4 before being released. Since 2016, he has been periodically threatening to put on Fire Festival 2, but it never seems to pan out. Understandably, it's been very hard for him to secure the funding. Unlike our next scammer whose lies were a hell of a lot more dangerous than just giving a bunch of rich teens a terrible weekend. Number 2. The Vampire of Wall Street. What's a list of scams without mentioning the American healthcare system? But on the subject of American healthcare, this next scammer promised to revolutionize blood testing and managed to fool some of the richest, most powerful people in America. This is the story of Elizabeth Holmes, known for having a weird voice, a love of black turtlenecks, and for being the world's youngest self-made female billionaire in 2015. When she was still studying chemical engineering at Stanford in 2002, Holmes had an idea for a revolutionary invention, a wearable patch that would test microscopic blood samples for infectious diseases and automatically release medications. When her professors told her that that device would be impossible to produce, she didn't let that stop her. She quit school and she started Theranos, a biotech company that at its peak would be valued at $9 billion. Holmes's pitch was the Edison, a machine that could accurately detect any disease from a single drop of blood. It was a great idea in theory. Investors loved Holmes. She was able to gain support from Rupert Murdoch, Bill Clinton, and even the dean of Harvard Medical School, who offered Holmes a seat on the board of fellows. However, in 2015, a whistleblower within Theranos revealed the ugly truth behind the Edison. The machines didn't work. All of the lab tests had been faked, and the machines that were being used in labs across America were giving bogus readings. By 2018, after dozens of lawsuits, Theranos dissolved, and that same year Holmes was arrested. She and her partner, Ramesh Balwani, were accused of fraudulently raising $700 million from investors. Now, let's take a look at one of the biggest, boldest, and downright weirdest scamming gangs of all time, and the way they beat a system that everyone thought was completely unbeatable. Number 1. Ocean 70 and the Impossible Con. Our most successful scam on our list reads like something out of a heist movie. A gang of high-tech con artists managed to beat the odds at Baccarat, a game considered nearly impossible to cheat, and walked away without ever being caught. Here's how the gang operates. There are believed to be as many
Bro, do you think casino is do you think casino is a scam, bro? I don't know.
as 70 members who take turns visiting casinos in small groups. That makes it nearly impossible to identify them until after they've already scammed you. And here's how the grift works. There are 3 players, all members of the gang. The dealer offers
Casino lost an estimated $5 billion every year due to cheating and scams. Woo.
the deck to one of them, as well as the red cutting card. As is traditional, Baccarat is played with 6 to 8 decks, normally about 400 cards, and the player runs his hand over the edges of the cards before deciding where he'll cut the deck. But under the cut card, he's actually using his fingernail to flick through the deck, allowing the top corner of all 400 cards on the table to be recorded by a camera hidden in the sleeve of his jacket. None the wiser, the dealer deals out the cards and the game continues as normal. After a little while, the player excuses himself to go to the bathroom, where another member of the gang is waiting to take the camera and upload the footage. The player returns to the Baccarat table, while his accomplice in the bathroom converts the footage of the cards into a frame-by-frame sequence that he can then export and email to one of the players at the table. This player opens the email on his phone, and now he knows the order of every card in the deck. He makes his bet, and the other 2 players follow his lead. All 3 players walk away with modest wins, and the casino security doesn't even know they've been robbed. All thanks to clever tricks and James Bond-style gadgets. By operating scams like this, the Baccarat cutters have been able to scam millions of dollars from casinos all over the world. The most brilliant part of the scam, and the reason they have never been caught, is that unlike all the other scammers on this list, they never get too cocky. They always keep it low-key, and their little and often approach means that they can make bank without ever stealing a suspicious amount of money all at once. Think those scams were wild? Wait until you meet the masterminds who didn't just trick the system, they stole from it outright. Watch The Greatest Thieves in History to find out how they pulled it off, or click on this video instead.
Bro, look, scam seems cool. You see the last one, you can make a lot of money, but bro, at the end of the day, when you get caught, you'll get some years. And you know, it's bad to scam people. So just work for your just work for your own hard money. So yeah, guys, don't scam. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. There was a great video by the Infographics Show. So yeah, see you guys on the next reaction. Peace.